The Austin Buck Show was filmed in front of a live studio audience. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. We have finally entered Phase 4 of the MCU, and oh snap, did that take a while. This isn't gonna work. Let's get into the review. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. We are talking the first 3 episodes of WandaVision, one of my most anticipated shows of the year. I could not wait for this. Don't worry, no spoilers in this review. We will have individual recaps every single Friday. Tomorrow, the first 2 episodes are dropping. Are you guys watching? Leave your comments down below. And if you like this review and you want to drop a thumbs up, let me know all of those things, and let's talk about it. Also, I want to say thanks so much to Disney for providing these 3 episodes for review. So this first Marvel Cinematic Universe show is a blend of classic television and the MCU that we know and love, in which Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and Vision, aka Paul Bettany, are living idealized suburban lives as 2 superpowered beings. But then they begin to suspect that everything is not as it seems. The new series premieres on Disney Plus tomorrow. Now, clearly we can't go into too much detail here. I want to save everything for you all, but I want to give you an idea of the show that you're getting yourself into. Obviously, from the clips and the trailers and what we've seen online, you get a good vibe and an idea that they are going to harken back to the good old days of television and give us that classic sitcom style while telling a story that maybe goes deeper than what you expect on the outside. And I love how every episode that I've seen starts out in a way that is calm, collected, and written in the style of show that it's trying to throw us back to. And sure, sometimes the jokes, they're a little bit cheesy, sometimes on the nose. They'll look at the camera and wink. The audience, which was actually a live studio audience, would laugh, but that's exactly what they're calling back to. Now, if you're going into this not liking a show like that, then you're going to watch at least the first 2 episodes and say, I don't know if WandaVision is a show for me. But that's more of a surface-level complaint because while watching these, we'll talk about the first 2 episodes, you do notice these subtle details, or sometimes not so subtle, that lead you to suspect that there is something more going on here. And from there, we start to peel back those layers and get into what WandaVision actually is. And that, for me, when I got on Twitter claiming that this show was so fresh and different, that is what made me say that. Because while I think the idea of a multicam sitcom in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is great, and especially the fact that every single episode is dealing with something different, I love that. And I was thoroughly entertained seeing 2 characters that we know and love from the MCU placed into these situations with some wacky side characters. You have the neighbors, you have those who come over, have a good conversation, engage in the silliness. They have their jokes, they have their quips, the audience laughs. And that's all fun and dandy, right? But that's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. Those of you who don't love something like that, you're going to be in this for the details. You're going to be in this for the hints and clues and Easter eggs that you love the MCU for. And I have a feeling once the show is said and done, this will be one of the biggest Easter egg-filled things that we've ever gotten from the MCU, just because of where it looks like we are leading. And I'm going to make some comparisons here that I am sure you will see in other reviews, but only because it's a bit too obvious, not a bad thing, but comparisons that make this show really stand out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I look at a movie like The Truman Show. I look at a show like The Twilight Zone, more recently Black Mirror on Netflix. You can make those comparisons, and at its core here, and I won't expand too far, I'll save that for the individual episode reviews, I believe this show is veering into somewhat of a horror territory. Austin, why do you say that? Well, you just have to wait and see. But going back to the sitcom comparisons, shows like I Love Lucy and Bewitched, I mean, there are quite a few quirky elements that they take from those beloved shows and incorporate. One of the cool things about this series is every single episode has a different theme, whether it's relevant to that time period, the way that it's constructed, holding subtle hints for what that episode is going to hold, and even The style of the show, when they go outside of their house and they're walking around, the camera placement, walking in and out of frame, showcasing what the neighbors are up to, they capture the time period perfectly. And I have to give kudos to everyone involved behind the scenes here. From the writing to the direction, it's just cool. And it's not like they looked at the other Marvel movies and said, well, we are going to recreate that style. Because going into this, I believe some will have the mentality of Marvel, maybe not Avengers Endgame, but they have become sort of generic. And while I am a massive fan of this universe, there are a few movies that I can look at and say, yes, that does kind of fit within the formula of what we know from Marvel. This show does not fit within that formula. It expands very far beyond the box that we know, thinking of everything, the world, the characters, the way that it has built up so far, taking things that we know about these two specifically and implementing them into this style of television. That, to me, is really cool. And that is important for these characters going forward, and to see where they are headed and possibly where they could end up is magnificent. Next up, I do want to talk about something that I think is important, and that is the fact that this series is spread across multiple weeks. Obviously, tomorrow, the first 2 episodes, but then episode 3 the next week. By doing it that way, I see why they did it, because that's the way that Disney Plus does it. I think it may leave a few people cold after the first 2 episodes because, in my opinion, episode 3 is much more hint-heavy. You'll see the moments, and you'll see kind of an idea of what they're leading to, and I really hope everyone kind of stays on board, buckles in, because it will be somewhat of a slow progression towards the inevitable craziness of what we're hopefully going to get. And again, I don't know exactly where we're headed, but I have an idea, and if it does go in that direction, I think a lot of Marvel fans, superhero fans, and fans of these 2 characters are going to be very happy. Let's talk about the performances real quick. Paul Bettany is awesome as Vision. He's able to, again, expand beyond what he's done as the character, starting out as a voice behind Jarvis, and now the cheesiness of what he does works so well. For some reason, the character of Vision fits perfectly in like the 60s and 70s. I don't know what it is or why, but it works. But this is Elizabeth Olsen's show. This is Wanda Maximoff's show. And clearly it's built for both of them, but what Olsen is able to do, playing somewhat of a different character in every episode, but there's always that subtle piece of her mind that is working and at play, and I just love the way they convey that. I love the way she conveyed that on screen, and I know it's a superhero show. It's not going to be looked at in that way inevitably, but I hope the Emmys are paying attention. I can't wait to see how she wraps it up, because she is, in my opinion, that good. Again, at times it does have the pacing of a show in the 1960s, and some of the hijinks we find ourselves in will not really come into play later on, so they're just there for the sake of being there and using the trope. So those aren't necessarily the aspects that resonate with me. It's more the underlying theme here and what we're building up to, and that's what gets me really excited, and the fact that we have something like this, and it's so different. Maybe it's the excitement for the future of what this show is as opposed to what I've seen so far. But the reason I am there at this point is because what I've seen so far has given me little cues, and I'm really, really excited to see how WandaVision plays out. So I am thrilled to report that this show got off to a really, really hot start. The MCU is thinking outside of the box here, and Olsen is on another level. WandaVision is as creative, exciting, and fresh as expected. So it's really tough to give a score after only 3 episodes. As of now, it's probably around an 80 or an 85%, but we'll have to see how the rest of the show progresses, and come back to this channel because we are going to be talking every single Friday spoilers for WandaVision. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this review. It was a lot of fun. A show I was excited about, definitely intriguing so far, but we'll have to see how it plays out. You guys the best. Tune back in. More reviews to come today and tomorrow, and I'll see you very soon.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching Season 1 of The Austin Burke Show. Unfortunately, it will not be returning for Season 2. It's not funny, not entertaining, and it went on way too long. And I lied. This was not filmed in front of a live studio audience.